Hi, welcome back to Orange Therapy on YouTube. My name is Julie. I'm a mental health counselor in South Carolina. And today I'm going to be continuing this series based on Brenè Brown's book, Atlas of the Heart. And today we're going to be going to the places we go where we fall short. We're going to be exploring shame, self-compassion, perfectionism, guilt, humiliation, and embarrassment. Sounds like a blast, right? Sit back and let's learn about all of these places we go together. All right, welcome back. If that intro didn't scare you away, then you are ready to dive into shame. Shame is an emotion that we experience when we feel like we have done something and we are something bad or wrong. It's where we're saying I am bad. It's focused on the person rather than the behavior, and the result is that we feel flawed or unworthy. It's incredibly damaging because it takes away our ability to connect with others. If I feel flawed, unworthy of belonging, love, connection, if I feel like I am bad, there is something inherently wrong with me, then I'm stuck. From the research, pain is an incredibly painful feeling or experience. It is believing that we are flawed. And because we're unflawed, we are therefore unworthy of love and belonging and connection. It thrives on silence and secrecy and judgment. I love how Brenè gives examples in her book, and on page 136, she gives a bunch of examples of shame being felt. Shame is hiding the fact that I'm in recovery. Shame is raging at my kids. Shame is bankruptcy. Shame is my boss calling me an idiot in front of this client. Shame is not making partner. Shame is hairs growing where hairs aren't supposed to be growing. Shame is a broken relationship. Shame is my children not speaking to me. Shame is telling my fiance that my dad lives in France when he's actually in prison. Shame is infertility. Shame is my DUI. So you hear this undercurrent, and if shame thrives on silence, secrecy, and judgment, then I'm not going to speak those things. But what is the antidote for shame? Because there is an antidote for shame. I don't have to continue hiding and feeling this way and being in secrecy and isolation. The antidote is empathy, and we do that with self-compassion. Kristen Neff teaches about compassion, and I encourage you to read some of the books written by her. But she talks about self-kindness versus self-judgment. So recognizing that I need to be kind to myself instead of judging myself when I do something that's maybe shameful or embarrassing, or that I'm experiencing something that is embarrassing and shameful. She teaches about common humanity versus isolation. I'm not alone. Other people have experienced these things too. There's not something deeply flawed in me because I have experienced this thing, but rather I am like every other human being who sometimes experiences difficult things that they're not proud of. And she teaches mindfulness versus over-identification, recognizing the feelings, but not taking those feelings on to ourselves. There's also teachings on developing shame resilience, and there are 4 elements of shame resilience that are important to move through and process shame. We need to recognize shame and its triggers in ourselves so that we don't get swept away by those feelings. If feeling less than perfect in a relationship is where one of my shame triggers is, I need to be aware that sometimes I'm going to feel like, oh, that felt like a jab to me, but it's not. I need to practice some critical self-awareness, and I need to reality check my expectations in situations, right? Do I expect when I'm going to talk to somebody that the conversation is going to be entirely about me, or will the conversation be reciprocal, as it should be in a conversation? I need to reach out. I need to own my experience and share my experience with others so that I can experience empathy And then I'm able to offer empathy to others and receive empathy myself. But again, shame grows in those dark places where I'm thinking about the things that I've done wrong and taking it on as I am. There's something inherently wrong with me, and so I can't talk about that. I can't admit that I made a mistake. I can't admit my part in something because I feel ashamed because I have done something wrong, therefore I am bad. We need to speak about our shame because remember, shame thrives in silence, secrecy, and judgment. So we don't want to be engaging in those pieces. So while there's an antidote for shame in self-compassion, there are other things that thrive when shame exists. And one of those pieces that happens to thrive in somebody who experiences high levels of shame is a sense of perfectionism. Where perfectionism exists, shame is always lurking, is how Brenè Brown says it. Shame isn't a cure for perfectionism. It's a cause. We don't want, when we make a mistake and we are less than perfect, if we shame ourselves, then we feel like we have to strive harder to be perfect. The only thing that I can do is to be perfect, otherwise I have to lash out at others. Perfect is the only way, and I have to view myself through a lens of being perfect. Therefore, I can't experience or look at my part in things, because if I look at my part in things, then I have to recognize that I'm not perfect, just like everybody else, but that I have flaws. I have that piece of common humanity. Maybe I've done something wrong, which is guilt, which is what we need to talk about in a little bit here. But if I'm experiencing shame, then I bolster and work harder to try to be perfect, which is impossible. Nobody is perfect. We can't do the perfect thing or say the perfect thing or have the perfect family or have the perfect life. We're all going to make mistakes. Whereas empathy is other focused, and people who have high levels of shame and perfectionism have low levels of empathy. So whereas empathy is other focused, shame is self-focused. Shame looks at how other people are viewing me, and they're judging me just like I'm judging myself. I'm going to read a quote from page 142, and I think that this quote will highlight what I'm trying to say succinctly. Empathy is an other-focused emotion. It draws our attention outward toward the other person's experience. When we are truly practicing empathy, our attention is fully focused on the other person and trying to understand their experience. We only have thoughts of self in order to draw on how our experience can help us understand what the other person is going through. Shame, on the other hand, is an egocentric, self-involved emotion. It draws our focus inward. Our only concern with others when we're feeling shame is to wonder how others are judging us. Shame and empathy are incompatible. When feeling shame, our inward focus overrides our ability to think about another person's experience. We become unable to offer empathy. We are incapable of processing information about the other person unless that information specifically pertains to their view of us. So when somebody's in a shame storm, when they are feeling this level of shame that is so high, they are completely focused on themselves. They are completely self-absorbed. So those of us who are experiencing somebody who's completely self-absorbed, and we're going to bump into people like this in our lives. We will be this at points in our lives. And when we are, we can look at them with empathy to recognize that the shame storm that they're experiencing must be severe for them to be so self-focused. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to stay sitting there and listening to it. We can still have a healthy boundary and move away. But helping us understand what they're going through helps us to offer empathy to them. That feeling like they are bad, they have failed, they are failures, they are bad is very strong, and it creates that inward focus and that inability to empathize. Brenè goes on to talk about guilt in this particular chapter, and whereas shame is not profitable for us, guilt is. It drives us to do better because it's behavior focused. It focuses on what we have done wrong. And so when I look at what I've done wrong, when I'm able to evaluate my part in what I've done wrong, then I'm able to do better next time. I did something bad, I can do better. If I got an F on a test, shame causes me to focus on, I blame others and focus on my feelings. But guilt says, I can do better next time. Maybe I'll study better. Maybe I didn't understand what the professor was saying, but it focuses on myself. And guilt says, oh, that really sucks and that hurts, but I can try harder and do better next time. She goes on then to speak about humiliation. And humiliation is when we are belittled or put down by someone else, and the result is that same feeling of being disconnected and unworthy, like shame, and maybe disgusted or repulsed by ourselves. And it's similar to shame. Unlike shame, we didn't feel like we deserved what was being said. We felt that it was an unfair evaluation, but it keeps coming at us, it keeps coming at us, it keeps coming at us, and we're belittled and put down by someone else in front of usually a group of other people, and it hurts really deeply. It's been implicated as one of the humiliating, dehumanizing aspects of bullying, and it's very strongly correlated with lashing out, with violence. When there is bullying alone, and bullying alone doesn't have to lead to humiliation, but when bullying does lead to humiliation, when we are feeling belittled or put down in front of other people, and we're feeling to be made like something about us is less than, we're being judged as being bad because maybe we dress differently, or we have different interests, or we're maybe more introverted than somebody else, and we are humiliated for that, that can lead to an angry lashing out. And so humiliation is not something that we should engage in. We've all probably experienced being humiliated, being teased and put down in front of other people. Let's look at the fact that this is an incredibly detrimental piece. And if we see humiliation happening, we need to step in. We need to step in and speak to the bullies and say, that is not okay. You need to stop doing this thing. We need to talk to the person. There is nothing wrong with you. You are different than what they are. Offer them the common humanity piece. We all have different interests, right? And we need to offer them the same kindness that we would offer to ourselves when we are offering ourselves self-compassion. We need to offer them compassion. Then there's embarrassment. Embarrassment is more like guilt. I did something that was uncomfortable, but I'm not alone. Others have done it too, right? Maybe tripping and falling in the hallway. If I trip and fall in a hallway and I drop all of my books as a student, as a freshman going to school, and I drop my books, I might feel embarrassed because, I just can't believe I did this. People were watching me and I fell, but other people have fallen before and I'll get over it. If I jump into a shame storm, however, if I say, I'm never going to recover from this, what's wrong with me, I'm such an idiot, and all the negative self-talk that goes with shame, I can get into that shame storm and lack empathy toward myself and really get feeling bad. I feel that silence, that secrecy, that judgment. If others belittle me and put me down and humiliate me and tease me for the remainder of the year, then I'm going to experience that humiliation, further shame, and then it's going to be anger and resentment. It is amazing to me as we go through all of these different emotions that the cure, the remedy for the negative emotions comes back to kindness, comes back to compassion, comes back to this common humanity, recognizing that we're not alone. None of us can be perfect. We need to have progress over perfection. We are growing. Guilt says I did something wrong, but I can grow, I can move forward. So, offer kindness. All of these emotions, all of these experiences are common to man. The Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. Brenè says this is, and Kristen Neff say this is common humanity. We have this experience, and other people have had these experiences too. But let's deal with the experiences and with the emotions appropriately. Let's learn to do this together. And when we fall, when we fail, when we fall short of what we would like to be doing, when we end up in a shame storm, stop, offer yourself some compassion, recognize that you are learning. We are not there yet. We are all learning how to be human beings, to be emotionally mature human beings, to be human beings who not only offer kindness to others, but offer kindness to ourselves as well. I hope you learned something today, and I hope that you will carry this lesson on with you, maybe teach it to somebody else. Like, subscribe, and share, and I hope to see you next time here at Orange Therapy on YouTube, where you are welcome exactly as you are.